all of you to the inauguration session of the second International Colloquium on Leishmaniasis, with a special warm welcome to the eminent group of scientists from India, most of whom I've known for many years through our mutual interest in scientific research. I would like to take this opportunity to give you a brief background to the selected theme of this event, and also to give you a glimpse of the road we as researchers in this field have traveled thus far. Leishmaniasis, I know, is not a familiar term for some of you. It is a disease condition caused by a small parasite and transmitted by a tiny insect called the sandfly. When there was a sudden influx of patients with chronic skin wounds that were tested in our laboratory and were found to be positive for Leishmania parasites. So that was really the beginning. There was very little local information available about this condition at that time. So there was an obvious need to carry out in-depth studies, and then of course came the need for research funds to carry out the investigations. I am proud to say that the local grant awarding body, the National Science Foundation, really rose to the occasion and provided us with funding over many successive years, which really enabled us to discover the causative agent, its properties, and also to make many fundamental scientific discoveries that form the solid foundation of our existing research program, with a strong training and publication record. I am proud to say this program is now sustained with funds awarded through internationally competitive bidding mechanisms from bodies like the National Institute of Health, USA, and the World Health Organization. So the efforts made over a period of a decade or so also enabled us to establish good laboratory facilities to assist the clinicians in patient diagnosis and management. Many workshops were held to train laboratory personnel to carry out these investigations, and several awareness programs were held for the public, for the general public, that is to enable them to seek early medical care, all of which I believe continue to be of immense value to the health sector of this country. I do remain grateful to both the past and present administration of the National Science Foundation for the trust and confidence they placed in me since the early days of this outbreak that enabled us to achieve all these achievements that I mentioned. Since recognition of the presence of active transmission of this disease in the country, data started flowing in, which indicated a steady increase in patient numbers and gradual spread of this disease to all districts in Sri Lanka. So we, together with the colleagues in the Ministry of Health, then realized the need to develop a proper plan for control of this newly established disease. So to fulfill this national requirement, we organized the first International Colloquium on Leishmaniasis in year 2009. As an outcome of that event, an action plan was developed for prevention, control, and management of Leishmaniasis with the involvement of all local stakeholders and with very useful inputs from internationally renowned experts in that field, who were brought down with, again, sponsorship from the National Science Foundation. I recall some of the Indian experts who are here were also invited for that event, but unfortunately, they were unable to make it due to various reasons. But I am confident that they will make up for that this time round. In the recent past, we have been feeling the need to revisit this action plan and update our strategies that were laid down in 2009 for many reasons. Firstly, close to 4 years have lapsed since the synthesis of the original version of the action plan. So obviously some of it might be outdated. So with that background, and also once again extending a very warm welcome to all of you here, I wish to wrap up this address by wishing our fellow scientists from India an enjoyable meeting and a memorable stay in Sri Lanka, and also for the local participants, a scientifically and professionally productive couple of days. So with that, I will hand over the podium to Dilu once again to continue with the day's proceedings. Thank you.
Secretary, Ministry of Technology, Research and Atomic Energy, to speak a few words to this distinguished gathering present.
To all of you, on behalf of the Ministry of Technology, Research and I welcome all Technology, Research and Atomic Energy. Pardon me, the atomic energy part was just introduced very recently, so I've got to get used to that. Warm welcome to all of you who are here for this workshop. Professor Nadira has given you a brief, given you an overview of the focus of today's workshop, and I'd like to slot this event in by telling you about the program of cooperation which makes this workshop possible. We had signed an agreement, a science and technology agreement with India some time back. We had not really been able to do anything in pursuance of that agreement. Both the late High Commissioner to India, my good friend, the late Ramesh Jayasinghe, and your High Commissioner, Excellency Ashok Kanta, spoke to me about possible actions that we could pursue under the agreement. And in 2011, I was scheduled to visit Delhi for some other conference, and I spoke to Mr. Manish, and he in turn spoke to our colleagues in the Department of Science and Technology in India. And I must say that in a very short space of, I think perhaps Mr. Manish, 30 days, we were able to sign a program of cooperation, draft it and sign it and bring it into operation. This was done in pursuance of the Indo-Sri Lanka agreement, so it does have a high-profile status. And what we discussed and what we realized in Delhi, talking to our colleagues in the DST there, is that you all have many programs of cooperation with many countries. To us, this formal POC was the first of its kind. And what this provides for is an identification by both the DST in Delhi, in India, and our Ministry of Science, Technology and Atomic Research, Technology, Research and Atomic Energy, of relevant areas that our scientists could collaborate on. We did that. We built into the program of cooperation thematic areas that we thought were of value vis-a-vis the national development agenda of this country. We then called for joint proposals from scientists of both countries. How this works is that scientists in Sri Lanka have to team up with scientists in India and with institutions under government to work on areas that are relevant to the research agenda. And we had, on our side, we had about 40 responses to the call for proposals. And I don't know how many India had, but how we proceeded was, in terms of the clauses of the program of cooperation, we did our own evaluations. And I take this opportunity to thank the Sri Lankan scientists who sat in judgment over the proposals we received, and very particularly Dr. Mubarak, who played a very, I don't even see him here today, who played a very key role in evaluating, scheduling all of the proposals, along with the chairman of ITI, Professor Kumar. A team of evaluators went through all of the proposals, and we finally, the same thing was done in India. And then we finally based on the marks and the rate rankings given to each of these proposals, we picked 9 research projects and 2 workshops. One workshop has already been held in India. This, Professor Nadira, is the second, and the Sri Lankan one, which we are hosting. The Ministry of Technology, Research and Atomic Energy, I have finally got the name right, is proud to be part of this initiative. We look forward to further collaboration, and what we are emphasizing right along is that all of these research projects must provide some useful outcome from which we can contribute to the development of our 2 countries. That is the essence, that is vital. Otherwise this becomes a talk shop, and we have no money to spend on talk shops. We believe the scientists of our 2 countries have a very important role to play. I think the government of Sri Lanka has accepted this. I can speak for the government of Sri Lanka, has accepted that rationale because the budget has allocated more financial provision for research, has provided further incentives so that we can look to more effective tie-ups with industry so that we can pass on research findings to the marketplace, thereby adding value to our products and providing very useful outcomes in areas like health and agriculture and such like that will improve the quality of life of our peoples. Thank you once again to our Indian counterparts for the very cooperative atmosphere in which you 2 have worked. We look forward to seeing the rest of the research proposals getting underway, and we look forward to seeing the results. I must take this opportunity to also thank my director, Himali, for her untiring efforts, really fully endorsing what Professor Nadira said. Thank you, Himali, for all your efforts. And I hope all of you who are here for the workshop will have a very meaningful, will have meaningful deliberations throughout. And please enjoy our country. I hope you will be given the time for that. Thank you.
Mr. P. Kumaran, Deputy High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, to speak a few words.
I'm glad to be here to participate in the inaugural ceremony of the workshop on the update on diagnostic and chemotherapeutic approaches against leishmaniasis, being organized today as part of the program of cooperation under the India-Sri Lanka Science and Technology Cooperation Program. I welcome all the participants from India for the workshop. As the Secretary mentioned, this is the second workshop being organized by the 2 sides under the program of cooperation for 2012 to 2014. The first one, I understand, was a workshop on transdermal drug delivery systems organized by the Indian side in February 2013 at Vijayawada. India-Sri Lanka cooperation in the field of science and technology is an important component of our bilateral relationship. The 2 sides have been cooperating in this field for several decades in a variety of fields. There has been a regular exchange of scientists, training, exploratory visits, etc. Apart from cooperation in a bilateral framework, India and Sri Lanka have also cooperated in various activities under the umbrella of SAARC, BIMSTEC, and the NAM S&T Center. Science and technology cooperation between India and Sri Lanka received what you could call a booster dose following the visit of Dr. T. Ramaswamy, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, to Colombo in March 2010. The first meeting of the Joint Committee on Science and Technology met thereafter in September 2011 at New Delhi and identified a number of specific areas of cooperation, including food science and technology, nuclear technology applications, oceanography and earth sciences, biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, material sciences, medical research, including traditional medicine systems, spatial data infrastructure, and space sciences. As the Secretary again noted, the two sides have now shortlisted 9 research and development projects and the 2 workshops that I mentioned earlier. The next meeting of the Joint Committee on Science and Technology will be held in Colombo on 19th and 20th April 2013. This will provide an opportunity to both review ongoing cooperation and also look at new and specific areas to further broaden cooperation. Being the second largest producer of scientists and engineers in the world, India is today well positioned to make substantial contributions to research and development in the world. The Indian pharmaceutical industry has been a success story with over 500,000 people employed in this sector in some 12,000 firms. Patent applications in India have witnessed a remarkable increase over the past 5 years. From 35,000 applications in 2007-2008, the number has moved up further by nearly 50% in 2012-13. Given the rising prominence of India as a research and development hub, experts are confident that this trend will continue to rise in the coming years. India is already powering R&D programs for over 100 Fortune 500 companies and of over 750 multinational corporations in the country, growing at a rate of over 20% on an average for the past several years. R&D is expected to touch new heights in India in the near future. I'm happy to note that Sri Lankan researchers have also been doing cutting-edge research work in recent years. Last year, the Sri Lanka Institute of Nanotechnology, SLINTech Private Limited, entered into a strategic collaboration agreement with Nagarjuna Fertilizers and Chemicals Limited of Hyderabad, India, to develop the next generation of nanotechnology-based plant nutrition solutions. These are next-generation green products that will help increase productivity and income for farmers, thereby creating a sustainable business for all stakeholders engaged in agribusiness. This is a new model that we should seek to expand and further develop. As part of the strategic partnership between Nagarjuna and SLINTech, Nagarjuna is purchasing the first generation of nanoplant nutrition products, taking it from the stage of proof of concept to proof of value for commercialization, and also entering into a long-term strategic technology development program for the second and third generation nanoplant nutrition products. Friends, economic development is distinctly interconnected with the health of the people because it greatly contributes to the productivity and the strength of the economy. Fortunately, India and Sri Lanka have a deep-rooted tradition of good health practices since centuries. Our ancient systems have developed a high level of health consciousness and knowledge of treatment of diseases, which has been unfortunately overlooked with the advancement of medical sciences in our country. It was really a healthy sign that we're increasingly working together in recent years. I hope the trend continues and we go on to greater heights. Our great biodiversity with the rich treasure of medicinal plants, the scientific cultivation of which can generate employment for millions, will certainly be an important source of strength. I'm hopeful that today's workshop will provide greater opportunity to the delegates of both countries to better understand each other's capabilities and deliberate on possibilities of working together in the future too. The India-Sri Lanka relationship, friends, is special. Our deep social, cultural and civilizational bonds forged over centuries, apart from our shared interests and concerns in the contemporary times, provide a solid foundation for further strengthening our already close and friendly relations. Our relations are today growing rapidly in all areas, be it political, trade and investment, science and technology, agriculture, health, education, sports, and culture. India is committed to being a partner of Sri Lanka in meeting its aspirations of peace, harmony, growth, and development. On behalf of the High Commission and on my own behalf, I wish you all a fruitful discussion, and I also wish the Indian participants a pleasant stay in Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Professor Shyam Sundar to this audience. Professor Sundar is the Professor of Medicine at the Banaras Hindu University, which is a premier university in Asia, and he is a world authority on visceral leishmaniasis and a leading researcher in the world on VL. He has over 300 international publications, including in journals such as the New England Journal of Medicine, the Lancet, British Medical Journal, and the Annals of Internal Medicine. He has a citation count of over 7,700 and an H index of 46. That for the medical community would let you know the stature of the gentleman who's going to speak to you in a little while. He was a member of the scientific committee of the World Leash 2005 and 2009, and also an organizer of the World Congress on Leishmaniasis in 2009, which I think is the reason why we couldn't have our Indian friends over in 2009 for the first conference. He is also a contributing author to the world's leading textbooks of medicine, including both Harrison's and Davidson's. He is an editor-in-chief or editor or a member of the editorial board of many international journals, and has received numerous national and international awards, honors, and fellowships, including the Fellow of the National Academy of Science of India and the Fellow of the National Academy of Medical Science of India. And he's an expert advisor to the World Health Organization and to the governments of India and Nepal. So ladies and gentlemen, let us now take this privilege of listening to Professor Shyam Sundar at his keynote address.
We did more studies which were published in various journals, and you can see that at 100 milligram given for 28 days, 97% patient could be cured. So this was taken as an adult dose for phase 3 studies. So that was phase 1, this was phase 1-2 combined, and this was phase 3 study where we treated 300 patients with miltefosine and 100 patients with amphotericin B, which was a comparator. And the dose was 100 milligram daily for 28 days if person was weighing equal to or more than 25 kilo, or 50 milligram less than 25 kilo, and for children 2.5 milligram. Of course, in this study children were not included, only adults were included, and duration was 4 weeks, and the cure rate was quite remarkable. Almost 94% patient could be cured. As you can see here, miltefosine and amphotericin B were acting in parallel, almost parallel, and as far as splenic size reduction is concerned. Similarly, in hematological parameters, we saw that white count, rise in white count and rise in hemoglobin was very similar or slightly superior with miltefosine. So miltefosine was a drug which has come to stay. Then since the earlier trials were done only in adults, we did some trial in children. And I am just presenting you one big trial where 4 centers were involved, 80 patients, 20 patients each at each center, and dose was 2.5 milligram per kilo and duration was 28 days. Adverse event was very similar to what was seen in adults, and vomiting was in 26%, diarrhea in 25%, and there was asymptomatic rise in hepatic transaminases, no nephrotoxicity. The cure rate was 94%, absolutely equal to what was seen in adults. So we did a study 10 years after using the same conditions, and we treated 567 patients who were provided drug under directly observed therapy in the hospital.
Including the Secretary to the Ministry of Technology, Research and Atomic Energy, Deputy High Commissioner for India and Sri Lanka, the country representative for the World Health Organization, the chairpersons, directors and additional secretaries of various institutions, officials of the Indian High Commission, distinguished delegates from India, friends, colleagues and from the universities, our colleagues from the universities, the Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Technology, Research and Atomic Energy, the Veterinary Research Institute, and also the private sector, and the staff in the Department of Parasitology, and those in the SLEDA, including especially Mr. Buddhika. Secondly, I would like to thank the scientific delegation from India, whose presence here will provide the expertise and the international quality and the flavor to the proceedings. And thirdly, the chairpersons of the academic sessions for agreeing to provide us guidance to the proceedings and to the discussions. The invitees and participants, that's all of you, from the universities, the health ministry, the BRI and the private sector, who will catalyze the proceedings and take its rewards to the people of Sri Lanka through the services you render to the nation. Our sponsors, the Ministry of Technology, Research and Atomic Energy, through the Indo-Sri Lanka Agreement in the field of science and technology, and the many officials and persons who helped us personally from various organizations, including especially Professor Michari Chatterjee, those in the Ministry of Science and Technology and the Higher Education, the university and the medical faculty, and the Health Ministry, and the SLEDA. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for all your assistance, and let's proceed to have the rest of the 2 days of proceedings and try and make the most of this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.